Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to the Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Ruck, Stacey, so thanks for joining us for another episode. We're joined today by the host of the Pitch podcast and one of the senior WesWes columnists, Mr. Joey Nanai. Joey, mate, thanks for jumping on us.
Thanks for having me once again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, actually. I think the last episode we did was in September last year. I'm not sure if you were on, but it was sort of an All Blacks review. So it's been, a good 5 odd months since our last episode. So what have you been up to just in that time, just to give our listeners a bit of an update? How's your summer been and what have you been up to?
Yeah, summer's been great. I've been able to enjoy the nice summer weather we have here in New Zealand. We get to enjoy. Just been busy with trying to get some more and more business on board.
Nice.
But it's looking like another great season of sport, namely rugby.
Yep, 100% agree with that. I mean, summer's good, but for myself, who watches rugby and league as my main sports, it's been a bit difficult. I just normally come home on the weekends to try and watch some sport. I watch a bit of cricket, but outside of that, I'm just waiting for the rugby season to start up. So, we'll get into it. But before we do, I'll take care of some of our housekeeping stuff. We have our website, www.weswes.net.com. And don't forget to click the support us button on the page to keep the content flowing. And we have some additional exclusive content available for our supporters. So some additional benefits there. You can follow the Ruck on Twitter, although we haven't been that active in there, I'll say, or X as it's called now. I've got to keep up with the lingo, and Facebook. So give us a follow and give us a like. All right, we'll get straight into it. So Super Rugby, starting up Valentine's Day, February 14th. So it's a good opportunity to do some team previews, get some predictions, talk about some of the other teams that we don't always seem to talk about. We talk a lot about the teams that we support, myself and you being Blues guys. Rog, when he's on, he's a bit of a Chiefs guy. So this is a good opportunity to sort of review some of those other teams as well that some of our listeners might support. So I thought we'll start from the top of the North Island and work our way down, which brings us to Moana Pasifika first, because they moved to the North Harbour Stadium. So they were at the top of the North Island. So we'll start with them. I'll give you a bit of an update, Joey, before we get into it, about some of the changes that they've had there. So their inaugural captain, Sikope Kepu, he's retired. Angelo Tuitavuki, Solomone Funaki, and D'Angelo Leilua, they've taken up overseas deals, and a few others popping up in some other Super Rugby teams as well. On a positive note, they've picked up Ari Savia, so one of the best players in the world. Jackson Garden Bishops playing for Moana Pasifika this year, and a returning Solomon Alaimalo as well. So Moana Pasifika, 11th last year. Just talk me through your thoughts on Moana Pasifika and how you think they're going to go this year.
Moana Pasifika, they've been injected with a bit of a legend there in Ari Savia, and he's been announced recently as the captain for the season, so that's good. Good on him. And obviously, hats off to Sikope Kepu, who brought them this far in terms of his leadership and experience. I hope he's enjoying retirement so far. Probably not. Probably got itchy feet. But, they've produced some good players, and they've had some players that have been through Super Rugby already. Players like Christian Leali'ifano, whose experience has probably rubbed off onto the younger guys who are coming through. Guys like Alamanda Motunga, guys like even Levi Elmore, who is relatively new in terms of Super Rugby tenure, but he's doing well for the Crusaders, having come from Moana Pasifika first. And, he was one of the guys that we were tagging as one to watch out for. And he's obviously taking it all in his stride, and he's done well to get himself to the Crusaders. And his first season there was a great one. So hopefully he builds on that. Players like Tomasi Alosio, who's another up-and-coming prop, and a few others, right? So, there's a lot of talent coming through there, and I think it's just a matter of how they react and gel with the likes of Ari Savea. You've obviously got Julian Savea there as well, who's an old head who has been around the block. He's gone to France and come back, and he's playing some decent rugby there. Obviously in the centres where he's probably doesn't prefer or not used to in his career, but look, that's where he's where the need is greatest for his skill set currently. So I think it will come down to the success of their season will come down to how they react to a leader like Adi, who likes to lead by example, who doesn't like to talk it up too much. He just likes to show them how it's done. And if they react to that really well, then great. I can see them doing better than previous seasons.
Yeah, good thoughts there. I agree with all of that actually. We touched on some guys there. The back row I really like. So Adi, obviously, but they've got Miracle there, who's been he was one of the standout finds of the last couple of seasons. Lotu Inisi, I think he might have got Player of the Year. I'll have to double check that. And also Sionu Havili. You had Motung as well, who you touched on, who's still there. There's some real depth there and some guns in that area. So I think they can really compete there. I mean, do you see them moving up the table 11th last year? I mean, Adi's going to make a difference because he's a world-class player, but they haven't been competitive since they've started. So how do you think they might move up, or do you think they're going to stay around the same area?
Well, I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard ask, but I do think they are going to move up purely and simply because they've got a leader in Adi who doesn't just talk the talk, he actually walks it. And he will lead by example, and that example will inspire the younger blokes to not only on the playing pitch, but in the training pitch, in the gym, with the habits that they have off the field, the professionalism that he brings to the team from his Hurricanes tenure, from the All Blacks setup. All those things that he shows them with his professionalism and how he prepares for each match, that can only work wonders for them. I think it'll be even more of a step up from having Sikope Kepu as the leader, who's come from Australia with all that experience from Australia. He was a 100+ test caps guy, wasn't he?
Yep, 100 something. I'll have to Google it, but over 100 tests with all of these.
So all that experience, obviously they've been able to capitalize off that, and these are still trying times for that organization. But I think with Adi there at the helm, they can only do well, better than 11th. I think the example in terms of comparison would be James Fisher Harris going to the Warriors. Someone of that level being injected into a not so good team like the Warriors is only going to help them, because all those habits and behaviors that he brings from just being in the normal environment of a successful organization like the Penrith Panthers, brings that to the Warriors. It's only going to make the Warriors better, right? And I think Adi brings the same thing. So it can only be a good thing for the Moana Pasifika team, and I think they will end up doing better than 11th. I'm not sure what the other teams look like at the moment, most of the other teams, but I think just based on that alone, Moana will do well. Yeah.
I think I'm hoping that this could sort of be the start of some other signings. Like, you think if you get that go forward from Adi, if you're the half or whoever getting some good front football, that might be a bit more appealing, because it feels like they've struggled to get elite level guys to go to Moana Pasifika. It's almost like if you didn't get a contract for whoever, then you might open the door with Moana. So I'm just hoping that could open it up a bit more in terms of the signings for the future. But I'll get your thoughts on this. You might be a good guy to sort of answer this, just looking at your corporate background and stuff. But they've made that move, I just saw, from Mount Smart to North Harbour Stadium. Do you think they've got a strong Polynesian following? Are they going to make that trip to the North Shore, the people from South and West and all the rest of it, and their supporters? I don't know how strong the supporter base is over the shore. And does that make sense to you from the corporate side?
I think from a corporate side, it does make sense, but from a fan base side, it doesn't.
Right.
Just because the fan base for that team is in Auckland, is in central Auckland South.
Right.
Right? That's where you're going to find the fan base for that team. Unfortunately for them, where they've moved to in North Harbour is still Blues territory.
Yeah.
That's a solid Blues territory, actually.
Yeah.
From there, north is solid Blues territory. So I think it's probably not the best move to make, but I also feel like they were possibly forced in terms of administration to move there due to the fact that you've got Auckland Football Club, the new soccer team for Auckland, based at Mount Smart. So you can't have three of those teams based at Mount Smart, right? So one of them's got to give, and unfortunately for them, it's them. And North Harbour is probably the only available stadium worth going to.
Yeah, good thoughts. Yeah, I was wondering about the why, but when you bring up, I didn't really consider Auckland FC as well. That's a good point. So then maybe that does make a bit more sense. I know some Moana Pasifika supporters who are staying out my ways out south, and they're like, am I going to go all the way to the shore to watch them or not? So in my mind, I was thinking, shucks, that's a head scratcher. When you say it like that and bring in, maybe it was out of their hands, maybe that does make a bit more sense. So yeah, good thoughts there, Wills. Anything you want to add on Moana Pasifika before we move on to our next team?
Just that it's interesting that there was an article in New Zealand Herald today that mentioned Moana Pasifika now allows for 3 All Blacks to be a part of that team. So that should be an indication to fans around in the Super Rugby realm anyway, that our earlier prediction when Moana as a concept was first brought about, that this was a feeder team for NZR, is, they're starting to make us sound like we were telling the truth.
Yeah.
And make us sound like we knew something that hadn't actually happened yet. So it looks like that's the case. Anyone could look at that and go, hold on a minute. New Zealand Rugby have a bit too much control in this, allowing for 3 All Blacks to be part of Moana. What's going on there? I thought this was a fully Pacific team where Samoa Rugby Union, Tonga Rugby Union, and Fiji Rugby Union all benefit from this team. The only way really that they can benefit from this team, if you're not looking at it from a financial standpoint, is having players from those unions picked in that team. Doesn't look like it. Looks like New Zealand still gets to have players in that team. So whatever way you look at it, New Zealand still have control over what happens in that team. By putting 3 All Blacks in there, that now leaves the door open for more All Blacks later on down the track. Who's to say they wouldn't increase that to 5 or 6 later on?
Yeah.
And then eventually, by the way, we're going to change the franchise name to, let's say Pacific Ocean.
Pacific All Blacks.
Or, yeah, All Blacks B.
Yeah.
Or something silly like that,
Yeah.
Something that New Zealand Pacific.
Yeah. We did we did sort of question that around Moana Pasifika when it first started up. But just looking back on the history, you touched on some guys. So Levi Moore, he was their Player of the Year 2022. and you're thinking, oh, he's eligible for Samoa, he's eligible for Fiji.
Hmm?
He didn't turn up in any of their teams, and he turned up he got poached by the Crusaders. With his eligibility still up in the air. New Zealand Rugby like what they saw from him. Take him to the Crusaders. He was in New Zealand A. 2023, Timothy Tavatava Nawai was Player of the Year for them that year. I think, he's going to be gun for Fiji. Doesn't turn out. Turns up for the Highlanders. He's declaring for New Zealand. So their two best players each year have been taken. I think last year, Lotu Inisi was their best player. But he's already played for Tonga. So New Zealand couldn't take him, and that's why they've just left him with Moana. Otherwise, they might have poached him as well. So they've sort of been a little bit subtle, not too subtle, but this is another sort of head scratcher. Well, not a head scratcher, another one of those things where you think, oh, New Zealand Rugby, you said you were doing this out of the kindness of your heart to help Pacific Rugby, but we can see there's some ulterior motives there. We'll take the best guys you got, and we'll leave the rest for you to fight over.
Exactly.
So, which is unfortunate. And while we'll continue to support the Blues, if that's the sixth New Zealand team, I'll just stick with my first New Zealand team that I had at the start. So we'll have a look at the Blues next. If we've got nothing else to add. So just a little bit down the road there at Eden Park. A few changes there as well, which I'll go through. So a couple of departures. Makeda Ioane is obviously the big one. He's gone somewhere in Europe. I can't recall where. Swane Vaikeno was gun hooker there, who's come through the ranks there. Bryce Heem as well. I think he's out for the season with an injury. Those are probably the main guys there. But they do get Bodie back, and sort of a host of young, exciting players like Peyton Spencer, Carlos' son, and a midfielder which I saw at the Auckland NPC, Xavier Taele, who I quite like the look of. So, defending champs, I got to chuck that in there from last year. But mate, Joey, I know this is a team close to your heart as well as mine, so give me your take on the Blues for 2025.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a lot of changes that have happened there, and unfortunately, it's hard to predict this early in the season how they'll go.
Yep.
I do know though that they've enjoyed blooding a few gun players, in the previous season, and I wonder once he does get a chance to come back, how Caleb Clark will do, how Dalton Papali'i will do, how even Bodie Barrett will do if he doesn't do the Japan thing. You mentioned Bryce Heem. He's another one, a veteran these days with a wealth of experience. And he's got a bit of leadership there. And he adds a bit of composure to that backline, I feel. He's a reliable defender, strong ball carrier. So he knows Super Rugby, right? And then you have this young, talented fullback in Cole Forbes.
Yes.
He's one to look out for. He's a strong defender, dangerous attacker, and he's likely to compete for a starting fullback spot. So, the Blues this season, I believe, have a experienced core. They've got a strong foundation of experienced players, like the Barretts, like the Papali'is, like the Heems and others, who will be there to provide that that stability with the leadership side of things. Then you have that exciting young talent coming through. There's some promising players coming through, like I already said, Forbes and Clark's there. He's probably not considered young these days, even though he's been there only a couple of years. And others who are ready to make their mark, right? And you've got a strong forward pack, the forward pack who set the stage and the platform for the season last season to go on to win the championship. They've got a solid forward pack. There is a bit of disruption there with Akira now gone. So they will need to be strong at the set piece and in the breakdown to dominate those areas again. But I think the key part of their season needs to be a balanced attack, because that's what the Blues are known for.
Yeah.
All throughout all the seasons, and the titles that they've won, even the Aotearoa one that Roger always calls a makeshift one, the attack was on point.
Yeah.
And the Blues have the potential for a dynamic and varied attack at any part during the season, especially with Bodie playmaking. When Bodie's playmaking and Clark's outside with his pace, and then you've got Telea on the other wing just doing damage every time he touches the ball, and then you've got Heem's experience. Guys like that will help to steer the ship in the direction that it needs to go. So it's up to the players how they gel together, how they prepare and keep injury free. I think the teams that keep injury free the best are the teams that we're gonna see in the top 4 later on down the track during the business end of the season.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with all of that. So I don't know. I'm quite excited about the Blues and their chances. Obviously, you touched on some things there. Kid is a big loss. You got some young guys there who need to take some opportunities and fill some boots. But I'll get your thoughts on that six jersey. So we say he's probably going to get the 7 jersey. Hoskins, we're going to argue till the cows come home about why he's not getting the All Blacks. Hoskins gets the 8 jersey. That 6 jersey's open. So just having a look at the squad, they've got guys like Adrian Choate there. Anton Senja, the German guy, is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Suafoa, who's come back from some long-term illnesses. Anyone you see grabbing that 6 jersey for the Blues?
Oh, that's a tough one because there hasn't been any standouts that have put their hand up to go, I'll be his replacement,
Yeah.
There hasn't been any rising stars that have gone, yep, take notice of me, I'm there. If old mate Tom Robinson was still in the picture, I'd be picking him.
Yep.
He'd be the guy. Or even Hoskins if he was still around. Well, he is around, but is he? So for me, the biggest loser in terms of opportunities has been, unfortunately, Hoskins Tutu. For me, he was the missing piece in terms of an out-and-out number 8 that we needed in the black jersey. But that's a conversation that's gone past, and he can only look forward. So hopefully Razor has given him some pointers on what to work on, rather than just ignore him and do what All Blacks coaches do and not actually help the guy that's in the running, but focus on the guy that's in the jersey already. I think they just need to really develop somebody to be the next Akira. Right now, I'm not convinced that there is anyone yet. Maybe they're getting ready for club footy. And then make the NPC and get pulled in, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's the reason sort of why I asked the question. There's a lot of guys who maybe he's the guy, but you're right. No one's really grabbed it. I don't mind Choate, although I think he's probably more of a 7. Might be a bit small to be a 6. Senya's looks like he's the part, but again, he's got to grab his opportunity. This is potentially his time. He's been a up and coming guy for a bit now. It was hard for him to get in when they had 3 All Black Lucies, so I think he might be the one. Cameron Suafoa is probably a dark horse. He's got the size, he's got the set piece, he's a good defender. He could be someone who might grab it as well, but that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. One more thing, just having a look at the squad. So looking at the first 5s they've got there, Beauden Barrett, Stephen Pedofeta, Harry Plummer. 3 All Black first 5s there, which is great for our depth. But how do you see that playing out? Are you going to try and fit them all in, or how are you playing more that side of it?
For me, I think their best bet is to start Bodie and have Harry Plummer on the bench for Bodie, start Stephen Perofeta at fullback,
Mm.
have Cole Forbes on the bench for him. That way they have Perofeta's talent on the field. They've got Bodie's leadership and his fly half skills on the field. And then Harry Plummer is, he's the next Bodie. So he should just be biding his time to be the next Bodie, and when he's called upon, come and do a good job when he's on the field. Same for Cole Forbes at fullback. If he really wants to be the next Perofeta or the next fullback, for instance, he needs to bide his time, and every time he's given an opportunity, show why he should be the fullback.
Yep. I think we're on the same page there. I've seen some Blues teams where they try to fit them all in, with Bodie at 10, Plummer at 12, and Perofeta at 15. And there's just too much ball playing, too much passing sideways, and not enough guys sort of straightening the attack. So
yeah.
I also don't like the idea of playing all three of them, even though if you're to rank the players, they're both in the top 15, but just the mix. So I'm with you. I would do the exact same thing. Plummer, unfortunately for you, brother, you just got to bide your time. Sorry, mate, you're an All Black, so having an All Black on the bench is a bit of a luxury, but it's just the nature of the beast. I would also go Perofeta at fullback, Bodie at first five, and find a different second five who's a bit more straighter. So yeah, well, that's good. We're on an agreement there. 13 current or former All Blacks. I would chuck that in there for the Blues. So on paper, at least, if they can stay injury free, I'm a bit bullish, on their chances. I know if Rog was here, he would say, hey, pre-season champs. And I think we talked about that a bit off here. They gave the Crusaders a bit of a smoking in Christchurch last week. So, we'll take that pre-season title. And, I quite like the look of it. Some of those young guns that you mentioned as well. I mean, they look like they could be quite promising. So, yeah, I am quite ominous that the Blues are going to do well. And I will say, I mentioned him briefly, Xavier Taeli. Man, he was good on the NPC. He's only like 20 or something like that. But second five, mainly, but a centre. He's one to watch out for. Anything else you want to check on the Blues before we move into your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I think like you, it's just going to be hard to predict this early in the season. I think it is a little bit too early to predict how they'll perform for the rest, for the year. It's going to come down to how are they going to use their strengths? Are they going to use their forward pack the way they did in 2024 season? Are they going to have a balanced attack? Are they going to use their experienced core? Is that exciting talent going to put their hands up and say, pick me? But they are up against a few challenges where, depth and injuries have already, marred some of their key players. And replacing Akira is going to be a big, big challenge. So their overall success will depend on that.
And yeah, we'll add also just, Hoskins is hard done by. I am interested to see how that plays out. If he has another year he comes up, is Razor going to pick him? Because if he doesn't, he's eligible for someone else. He would have done his 3-year stand down. So this at the end of the year. So I hope Razor doesn't just pick him for a test and restart his 3 years and then chuck him back in the wilderness. But and that's the cynic in me talking probably. We'll take a quick trip down State Highway 1 to your neck of the woods there, Joey. The city of the future and home of the Chiefs. So, again, I'll have a quick look at the ins and outs. So, Josh Ioane. Shucks, he's gone. I didn't even realise. He's off to Connaught. Tyrone Thompson. His twin brother is in the NRL and he's decided to make that jump as well. So, on the recruitment front, not much to report. Brodie McAllister. So he makes the shift from the Crusaders, talented hooker there. And Jerome Brown, he was a back rower for the Brumbies. So he's making that move across the ditch. They do, I suppose, have the pedigree, back-to-back runners-up medals. So, mate, talk us through the team from your area, Joey, the Chiefs. How you see them going.
The Chiefs. Yeah, I do live in Chiefs country, but my team's the Blues. It's quite well known in Auckland and Hamilton. um, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. They've been producing the goods to make themselves find their way to the business end of the season on the right side of the business end of the season.
Mm.
Um, but the last couple of seasons, they've kind of not choked, but they haven't managed to find that success that they've enjoyed when they won, titles in the past. So I just wonder if they need an injection in key areas of the field. And I wonder if their experienced core, guys like Damian McKenzie and the likes, have the ability to provide that stability and leadership that they need. I wonder if the exciting young talent of couple of years ago will make a huge difference, and contribute to the team's success this season. So I wonder if the Chiefs, one, will bring on a squad that will have the potential to take them all the way, and two, be injury free.
Mm.
My young cousin bro, Etienne Naisetour, he's been injured in the past with knee injuries, but he seems to be looking all right. I watched a little bit of him in the preseason games there, and he looks like he's raring to go. So I'm looking forward to seeing him from a biased point of view. But at the same time, I do wonder if the Chiefs will do well this season. I want them to,
Mm.
but we'll see.
Yeah. The Chiefs, with D-Mac and those types of players, they play quite an exciting style. So even though that's not my team, I like watching their games and watching them just sort of as sort of a second team. But I am with you. If they can get some luck with the injuries, so you think about the guys they've had like Simasune, Tokiaho. He looked like a long-term All Black, but he's just been riddled with injury. Missed most of the international season last year. You think of Quintu Paia. He's another guy who's had a few injuries. But again, I liked the look of him before those injuries. He looked like another guy who was going to kick on. He's still only 25.
Yeah.
I think Geordie Barrett's on sabbatical there, playing in the UK somewhere. So, I mean, if he can get back to who he was before those injuries, that combination with Leonard Brown and stuff, he could play his way back into the All Blacks. And Josh Lord, another guy, the All Blacks really like him. But he's another dude who just gets injured at the wrong time. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen what the All Blacks have seen, but they've seen something and they like him. And I haven't seen him play enough rugby. His poor dude's always bloody on the physio table getting fixed up. So 100% agree with you on the injury front. And if they can get some luck there, there's a team there on paper. Obviously, 2-time runners up. So, yeah. Anything else you wanted to check on the Chiefs there before we move a bit further south?
There are some players there that the Chiefs had that they were coming through the ranks. I really want to see them do well. I'm not sure if they're with the Chiefs this season. There was Ollie Norris in the props. There was
in the squad, yeah, he's still there. Another guy who sort of, he's a solid Chiefs, solid Super Rugby level guy. Yeah, he's still there. I see his name in the squad.
There was a stalwart, Naitoa Akoi.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. He's good when he's on. Mitchell Brown was another one. There was a loose forward. There was a loose forward. Well, Mitchell Brown was a loose forward as well. But where's Sami Penny Finau? Where's he gone?
He's still there. Yeah, I had to
Was he
double
injured?
check his name. Yeah, he's another guy. Another one of those guys who I might have to talk to the conditioning guy. What is he doing? Because then we get injuries to some crucial guys, and that's where those names you talked about, Ollie Norris
Yeah.
and those other guys in the squad, they add a lot of value because, if you've only got 15 or good players, just the nature of rugby in the season, it's going to take the rest of the squad. And those other guys who are legitimate Super Rugby guys who are solid squad members, they play a crucial role when you're getting those injuries. So it might be some depth issues there if just looking at some of these things, some of the players that have left, not necessarily the big names, but some crucial squad member guys. So, yeah, good point.
A couple of guys in the backs that I want to see do well is Balin Sullivan. He's one of them.
Yeah.
Rees Rehana.
Yeah.
And Alex Nankivel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's a name that I haven't heard in a while, and I'd like to see him do well this season for the Chiefs. That's about all I have for the Chiefs.
Yeah. We needed Rods to come on and talk up his team just so I could shoot him down, but he's tied up serenading away with. I won't get into what he's up to. But yeah, we'll make our way to the bottom of the North Island and the Canes. So just looking at their team, Adi Savia we've touched on. That's a massive loss. TJ Perinara, he'd be right up there with their most capped guy. He's gone.
Yeah.
Geordie Barrett, we touched on briefly. All Black 12, 100 gamer as well is gone. So that's a massive sort of leadership void there. With some of their better and I guess more experienced players out. Looking on the other side, Ere Inari, he makes the move from Moana Pasifika to the Canes. But, just nowhere near the level of gains compared to the losses. So just looking at what they did last year, they were first during the regular season and semi-finalists last year. So that's actually not too bad. But, yeah, just give us your thoughts on the Canes for 2025, Ulse.
It's a tough one. I haven't really looked at. Is Clark Laidlaw still the coach?
That's a very, very good question.
So no, I know he was the coach after Jason Holland left to become the assistant coach for the All Blacks. Just wondered.
Clark Laidlaw. Clark Laidlaw's still the coach. Right. Corey Jane helping with the defence, and Bryn Evans. He's not long retired. I think he's helping out as well. So,
right.
Clark Laidlaw.
I don't know too much about Clark Laidlaw, but I do know that he previously served as an assistant coach for the Hurricanes between 2013 and 2015.
Oh,
so he's been in that environment before.
Yeah.
And he was the New Zealand Sevens coach.
Okay.
And he's led the New Zealand Sevens team to a number of victories. He was also the coach of them when they took the silver medal at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021.
Well, not to get sidetracked, but just looking at what's happening with that men's team recently, maybe they should be begging him to come back because they've fallen off the cliff a bit. But
yeah, it looks like it.
yeah.
So I just wonder if that can translate to the 15s game. Obviously, he's been in that environment before, so he should know a little bit of how to engage the players and get them to interact and gel with each other. So I think it'll be quite telling, depending on how he goes as a coach again.
Yeah.
With the group of players that he's got, I think the Canes seem to come on a bit in the 2023-2024 season. They're kind of like not a dark horse, but they kind of if you forget about them, they could sting you. Kind of a team, especially when it comes to the Chiefs and the Blues. That's the Chiefs' bogey team is the Hurricanes, whereas the Chiefs are the Blues' bogey team sometimes. So yeah, it's a tough one because I don't know too much of what's going on with selections this early in the season. I think that'll be a bit more telling in the next few weeks. But once Super Rugby starts, it'll be nice to see what kind of a squad they can produce.
Yep. Yeah, a couple of guys that have been mentioned a bit as sort of potential All Blacks. Ruben Love, Billy Proctor and Peter Lakai, got their international caps. So, a lot of young guys. And they're going to have to step up when I mentioned, Adi Savia gone, TJ Perinara gone, Jordy Barrett gone. It's up to generation next now to really lead the Hurricanes. So I'm really interested to see how a lot of those young guys go. But just one thing that I was thinking about, like in Auckland, right? The Blues, when they go well, is normally when the Auckland are doing well in the ITM Cup. And that can sometimes translate over. But Wellington did win the ITM Cup. So do you see that meaning anything at all potentially for the Hurricanes? Might be some unknown guys. The ITM Cup doesn't get as much love as it used to, I guess, when we were growing up. But do you think that means anything at all?
Yeah, I actually do. They've got some good young leaders there. I think they've got some good young senior players. I say young because I'm way older than these blokes, like Asafo Moa and and the likes. I think if they've got a firing Duplessis Karifi again, who as captain played so well and led them all the way to the championship, I think they work well with him. Obviously, they don't have Artie around to inject his energy into the team, but yeah, I think it'll come down to well, from an NPC level anyway, how they react to Duplessis Karifi, and if that can translate onto the Super Rugby side of things and gel with the other guys from the other provinces. Who knows? We'll see. I'm always interested in their props. The Tyrell Lomaxes, the Xavier Numias, the Vasilio Tosis.
True. Yeah, that's some depth there. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So games won and lost up front.
Yeah.
If you got Lomax and Tosi Numia on the bench, that's pretty decent. More as well. So the Hurricanes are renowned for having you think about the good old days, and you think about the Hurricanes, you think of Christian Cullen and Tana Umaga and Jonah Long playing this expansive style, but maybe then looks like their strength now might be Lomax or more and these types of guys. So maybe it might be a change in philosophy to who the Hurricanes have been in the past. But they've got some guys, like when you talked about the Chiefs and those guys that you mentioned, not the household All Black names, but that level underneath are quite crucial. Looking at some of these guys, Devon Flanders, been around for a while. You talked about Karifi. These guys are crucial guys. Umaga Jensen's another one who's been around for a bit. So,
yeah.
It's not the worst. I don't have high hopes for the Hurricanes, but just now giving them a second glance, they might not be too bad. And I'm with you. I think that Wellington winning the ITM Cup is not nothing. It's something. So, they'll go on with a lot of confidence and a lot of team spirit that they can carry that form on. And we've seen it happen in the past. I always watch the ITM Cup just to get a gauge of how I think the Blues might go with some of those youngsters. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. But if you've got nothing else you want to add on the Canes, we can look in the South Island, or you've got something else you want to say?
Yeah, I think just one more thing on the Canes. Just the key players. They were the top 4 key players were Artie, were Dane, TJ, and Geordie. With only Geordie left as one of those 4 key players, it's going to be tough for them to have that level of expertise at a senior level. And all 3 of those key players left now. But the guys that I'd like to see step up, who were new additions, Kini Naholo, because he's got so much potential, that guy. Powerful young talent.
Yep.
And he has a knack for finishing tries, which is good from an entertainment level. You've got Brett Cameron, who was the former Crusaders fly half. He's got a wealth of experience and a strong kicking game himself. Then you've got an outside back with a Waikato boy, Dan Tinkinson. He needs to prove himself. Peter Lakai, another promising player who impressed in the NPC previously. He'd be looking to make his mark on this particular Super Rugby campaign. So guys like that need to step up and pull a finger this this Super Rugby season and actually show what they can do. You've got Ruben Love there. You've got guys who need to put their hands up now that Julian Savea and Adi Savea have left. Well, Julian's left a couple of seasons now. But, guys like Talesi Rayasi, I don't know, is he still there?
Nah, he's gone as well
He's
now
gone.
that I look at it. So, he had the potential to be great. I don't know what happened. He didn't really fulfill it, in my opinion. So,
Billy Proctor, is he still there?
Billy Proctor is still there, yes.
Yeah.
He looked quite good in his little, cameos with the All Blacks as well, Billy Proctor.
So you got guys like that, who need to put their hands up because key players in those positions have left. And even for Artie, you've got guys who were on the fringe. They should have learned a lot from him whilst he was there. Guys like Braden Lewis, guys like Tyler Lobsher, don't know how you say his name, Reed Prinsep, Tekamaka Howden. These guys, they all need to put their hands up and say, pick me, basically.
Yeah, good point. They're quite a difficult team to get a gauge on, eh? So I'll probably follow them with a bit of interest. But we'll have a look, journey into the South Island and some of their teams now. So we'll look at the Crusaders, ninth last year. They were the only New Zealand team to miss the playoffs. So just looking at them, a fair few losses. Owen Franks and Joe Moody both retired, I believe. If you also add on the hookers, Brady McAllister, he's left, and Quinton McDonald, he's moved on as well. So some front row depth has definitely left the shores. Fergus Burke, I rated him quite highly. I thought in our preview last year, I thought he was going to be
you did.
the next All Black first five. He's gone to Saracens. Ryan Crotty, Manasa Matele also gone. So just on the positive side, Braden Enor, I suppose a return of sorts. He missed most of last season with injury. And, of course, James O'Connor. A massive coup for the Crusaders, picking up O'Connor, the Wallaby. So, the Crusaders, mate, any thoughts on them?
Mate, they've got a lot of challenges, eh? They've faced a lot of challenges and a lot of changes, right? They've, especially in recent years, and it hasn't led to the greatest of results for that franchise. Obviously, the latest one, or the biggest one, being their coaches moving on to greater honours with the All Blacks, and that proved to be something that impacted the whole franchise. It seemed, especially their results. The departure of the likes of Sam Whitelock, Richie Mounga, Lester Whainganuku. Guys like those, when they left, they kind of left a hole because they didn't seem to have enough depth the way we know them to replace them and replace them well. Obviously, they've entered a new era now with a blend of experienced players and exciting young talent coming through. They're looking to continue their legacy of success, but it's hard because they are now it looks like they're in a bit of a rebuilding phase from that winning culture that we all know as a country that the Crusaders have. And I guess it's a matter of seeing whether that culture that they had was deep enough and strong enough to bring them back to what they know, which is, glory. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of a team they end up with to start with, and what kind of a season they have. The Crusaders are known for having a slow start and then a really strong finish.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business end of the season, they're always there. So we'll see how they go. Not sure if they'll enjoy the success of old, but always interesting to keep an eye on the Crusaders.
Yep. I'm with you. I don't know, because them not even making the playoffs, that's unheard of. So I'm not sure, was that sort of where they're at now? Are they in the rebuild, or was that just a one-off sort of aberration for them last year? That's sort of the big question I've got with them. We talked about Levi Moore a little bit with our Moana Pasifika preview, but man, I still like him, So I know David Havili's been named captain. Look at him as a 12. He's really silky, good kicking game, and if you partner that with someone like Moore, who's that strong ball carrying guy, hitting the holes and all the rest of it, outside the ball playing of Havili, that could really be a good partnership if they can get off the back. I've brought this up before, but I like those types of partnerships, yin and yang midfield partnerships, sort of like Little and Bunt in the old days.
Yeah, of course.
Nono and Smith were very, different types of players, but their skills were complementary. So, and that's why it worked well together. Obviously, these guys ain't in that level, but I like the idea of having two different guys who play different styles and gelling well together. So, Moore, I'm really interested to see. He would have been an automatic for Samoa. He would have been an automatic for Fiji, and he's pushed him aside to try his luck to be in the All Blacks. I'm not knocking it, but if you make that decision, you want to see some payoff for him. So, hopefully he can build on his season and get closer to a call up. So, yeah. So just on the Crusaders, how do you think they'll go? Do you think that missing the playoffs ninth last year was a one-off fluke, or do you think this is sort of where they might be at with the losses that they've had?
Oh, that's a tough one because it's the Crusaders. But look, I think a key factor that impacted them and will impact them again this season is the coaches. I just don't think the current coaching setup will be able to replace Razor and the likes that easily. So I think they will stay, unfortunately, similar to the season they had, and potentially again next season. So, but we'll see. We'll see how strong they are as a franchise. With all the recruitment side of things, with the prep side of things, if they can get back to winning ways.
Just looking at Rob Penny, I was just trying to have a look who the coach is. Rob Penny, he was the one who basically got them nowhere. He coached the Waratahs before that. He was the head coach there, and they were pretty gay as well. So I don't know. This must be one of the jobs for the boys type things, because I don't know how this guy got that job. But I'm sort of a little bit torn, because that's a good point. I didn't think about the coaches. In my mind, I'm thinking the Crusaders always find a way of coming right. So last season was just a one-off sort of fluke that's not going to happen again. But gee, this guy, I probably would have sacked him if I was whoever's in charge of the Crusaders after what happened last year, because that's unacceptable for a team with that history to not even make the playoffs. Yeah.
Well, look, he's in my eyes, he's been in the Northern Hemisphere too long.
Okay.
He's been coaching up there for a long time. He's been coaching in Ireland, and he had he's in that famous video of the British Lions when they roll the dice. He's on the other he's on the other end of the call.
Okay.
He's the one that is talking to Zebo when
about the captaincy.
Yes, about the captaincy. It's Rob Penny who's talking about how he's on the water.
Wow. Okay.
So, he's spent a lot of time in the Northern Hemisphere. So I'm thinking he's probably not been able to shake that Northern Hemisphere mentality and mindset and style of play from his repertoire the way he probably planned. But I think, maybe given a couple more years, but he doesn't have that luxury, unfortunately, with Super Rugby franchises to be given that kind of, loyalty, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah, so just looking at his time with the Waratahs, he started 0-5 and ended up getting sacked. So, he hasn't got the coaching pedigree to fall back on when you think, oh, give me a chance, it might be something. So when he was with the Waratahs, they finished last.
Yep.
So I don't know how he got that job.
He coached Munster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gee. Oh well. Well, I suppose for me as a Blues fan, the Crusaders are my arch nemesis. So if they can sort of stay in the cellar a little bit longer, I'm not going to complain. But yeah, any other thoughts on the Crusaders before we move on to our next team?
I hope they keep losing.
yeah.
I like seeing the Crusaders suffer.
They've had enough. They've had enough success. Let
They've
someone
had
else have
enough.
a chance.
They've had enough. Let the North Island win for once.
Yeah, good thoughts. All right, so rounding out our New Zealand teams, we've got the Highlanders. So sixth last year. Some solid players have moved on. So Jermaine Ainsley, Paddy Parkinson, Billy Harmon. They've all taken the money on offer and signed those overseas lucrative deals there. So they have picked up a couple of Blues players. Swanee Vaikena, who I talked about before, hooker, Caleb Tangitau, who's an outside back there. But yeah, any love for the Highlanders there?
Look, I got more love for the Highlanders than I ever will the Crusaders. I do feel sorry for them. I do have a soft spot for them, and I do feel sorry for them. I know that, probably 10 years ago, they were on the verge of being axed as a franchise. There was talks, right? And even before that, it was the Chiefs, because the Chiefs weren't winning for a long time. So, look, I do hope the Highlanders find whatever it is they need to find, but I think that starts with good recruitment. You've got to start on a clean slate, but they don't have that luxury to start on a clean slate. I think last year they won 6 out of 15 games or 12 games. They became the 6th out of the 12 teams, which is not bad. They're missing some key players that they still haven't been able to replace. Guys like Shannon Frizzell, they haven't been able to replace that guy. He's just a powerful, dynamic loose forward who just, he was a wrecking machine and he could score tries. Mitch Hunt, he's a guy who I think is still in the frame, isn't he?
Not listed in the squad this time.
Oh,
I'm not sure. He might have taken the money overseas. I'm not sure he's in New Zealand rugby anymore.
I felt like they missed Josh Ioane when he left.
Yep.
Finn Hurley, haven't even heard of him since
I was going to say, tell me about Finn Hurley? What do you know about him?
Haven't even heard of him since he, came on as a key player to watch. Young and promising, I think is the best thing to say about him, because, don't know too much about him. Hugh Renton's another one who's supposed to be a hard-running number 8.
Right.
So maybe he could be the replacement for Frizzell that they're looking for in terms of a reliable ball carrier. Josh Bartlett is another new addition. He's a prop from Australia who has experience playing for Western Force. I mean, Western Force isn't really anything to brag about in terms of Australian rugby. Then you've got Jamie Joseph, who's back. He's already got a proven track record at the international level, and he'll be looking to bring a new style into the winning mentality of the team. So we'll see what he brings there. There should be a focus on the youth. I think the youth need to be developed into players that they can trust to take the franchise forward, and they need to select a few key players who are young up-and-comers who can lead the team in the years to come. Learn the ranks now, make it through the ranks, and then become the leaders that the Highlanders need as a franchise to move them forward. I know that Jamie Joseph will bring with him a fitness regime because he's come from Japan, right? And they love their fitness over there, right? They'll have that intensity, they'll have that stamina, they'll have full 80-minute type fitness. So we'll see how they go there. In terms of their chances in the competition, I think they've got a lot of potential, but they face huge competition. All the other teams are just levels better than them, and they'll need to improve their things like consistency. They'll need to, as I said, develop the young players. They'll need to find a way to basically consistently beat the top teams in the comp. So right now it is too early to say, but they could be a genuine contender if if that Jamie Joseph recruitment is a masterstroke for them.
Looking at their squad, Ethan de Groot, he's the only current All Black. They've also got Folau Fakatava, who was an All Black. But I just want to talk about Fakatava a little bit. How do you see him going? And he's 25 now, but he was earmarked as the next sort of All Black 9, and he hasn't kicked on. You know, you guys have sort of overtaken him. Do you think he can potentially get back in the All Blacks, or how do you see him going around?
I really feel for that guy. You know, right now I would say he's down the pecking order, but he has the potential. Unfortunately for him, he's a victim of a useless platform. The useless platform being useless forwards who don't provide a platform for that 9 to really excel, to really shine. They haven't made him look good. He's always on the back foot. I mean, he's good enough that he can make something of it, but you don't want to rely on that as being part of your game. Then it becomes normalized, and then you think you're always going to be on the back foot, and then you're always just trying to do these darts when it's not necessary. So I think for him, he just needs to play his natural game, which is bark at the forwards, find an opportunity there near the rucks, and that will just keep distributing really well. And then when the opportunity arises late in the game, take it and go and score those tries that you're really good at. For me, he's a exciting player when he wants to be. And I think he can realize that form that he once had that got him into the All Blacks. I think he just needs to be consistent this season. And unfortunately for him, he's got a team that really needs wins. They need W's on the board in order for him to look good. Otherwise, he's on the back foot against guys like Cam Roigard at the Canes. You know, Cam is still battling injury, but he's coming off a pretty successful All Blacks campaign.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm actually a fan of his, so I do hope he sort of kicks on. And that's a good point you raised about him being sort of in a beaten forward pack and not with a good team. Because I've seen him when he plays for Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
And I get that that's a level down, but he's in a team which is good. And he looks $1 million out there. He's won the Dwayne Monkley Award as the ITM Cup Player of the Year before, and we've seen what he can do if his team is competitive. But you're right, the forwards are getting dominated. He's getting back football. I mean, it's hard for someone, even of his talent, to show sort of their best abilities. So now that we've had a look at these teams, I think the Highlanders, on paper at least, might be the weakest team. So there's some guys, Finn Hurley, you talked about. I have no idea who that is. Michael Manson, I have never heard of. And that's no disrespect to these guys if they're out there listening. Josh Whanga, I've never heard of. There's some dudes here who are really, who the hell is that guy type of guys. So it could be a long season for them. But the Highlanders, to their credit, I've always written them off, and they've done better than I thought. They'll probably do that again. I'm predicting they'll be closer to the bottom, but they'll probably end up mid-table or something like that. So, mate, anything else you want to say on the Highlanders before we have a quick look across the ditch?
Not necessarily the Highlanders, but the competition on a whole. I think it's going to come down to, and just based on this episode alone, it's going to come down to two key factors. One is how the team reacts to their coaches, and two, the depth and injuries. You know, if they have enough depth to cover the injuries, I think that's going to be telling as to how far they go, and obviously the coaches will play a great big deal in how far they go.
Yep. Good point there. Well, I think we're in agreement on that. So we'll have a bit of a gander across the ditch at the Aussie Conference. So, Joey, just looking at last year, the Brumbies, the Reds, and the Rebels all made the playoffs. So it wasn't that one-sided, New Zealand teams just carving everyone up. that was seen in sort of previous years. So when you also add that the Wallabies, it
Mm.
looks like they're starting to get their act together with that new coach they got from New Zealand, whose name escapes me at the moment. That does augur well for the competition as a whole. So anything Australian you want to touch on? We don't normally talk about them a lot, but is there anything you like out there?
I think it's looking positive somewhat. I like the fact that they've made the Australian and New Zealand press already with pissing off Landis, who's the CEO of NRL. He's talking a whole lot of shit about them, about how players are defecting and talking it up about how much more exciting the league game is versus union. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that the union side of rugby has rubbed him the wrong way, because he's a bit of a douche at the best of times, old Volandis.
Yep.
So yeah, I want to see Australian Super Rugby do well, just because I want them doing well at the international level, because I want better competition when it comes to Beleda's low cup time.
Yeah. Well, we're on the same page here. I've gone from someone who loves watching rugby and loved watching Super Rugby to, watch all the Blues games and I'll sort of semi-watch some of the other games. It's just been a bit too one-sided. But Australia, they need to, if they can build on what they did last year, build on what the Wallabies are doing, and get back to how it used to be where there was good Australian teams, good New Zealand teams, and obviously good South African teams. We want to get to that competition, type of competition. If it sort of feels like I already know who's going to win this game, and some of the games are blowing up by half time, you can lose a bit of interest. But just on the Aussie conference, the Rebels, so Melbourne Rebels, they've been they're out this year. They had some financial issues, so that's interesting. That pulls it down to, what are we up to? Super 11 this year.
Yeah,
But
Super 11.
the Waratahs. The Waratahs is a team that I like the look of in Australia. So they picked up a lot of their better players at the Rebels. I know the Waratahs won the Spoon last year, but I think they'll move up the table, and I think they'll make the playoffs. So that's sort of one thing I like out of Australia. And obviously, you touched a bit on the NRL. Joseph Suali'i, the league convert there, he's come with a big reputation. He played good on debut for the Wallabies against those Northern Hemisphere teams. So I suppose the next step is for him to do it week in, week out for the Waratahs. He's obviously still learning the game, but you can see the natural talent there. So just something I'm really interested to keep an eye on, how he progresses in his development there. But anything you want to touch on there for the Australian conference? Anything you like to look over or anything?
Yeah, I mean, look, it goes without saying this season that, losing the Melbourne Rebels means it is going to be quite a pivotal season for Australian rugby. And, the potential for increased competition from the remaining franchises is going to be a big, strong one, right? And, from the Waratahs' perspective, if they can get over the lack of consistency that in recent years in terms of success, they always seem to be being outplayed by, other teams in the competition. Even our lesser teams here in New Zealand seem to be getting W's over them in recent seasons. So I think Waratahs, if they get their consistency back up, and I'm a big believer in, the success of your season is largely started by the success of your recruitment. If you recruit well, that's half the job done. But if you recruit duds, you're going to get wooden spooners and wooden spooner mentality and behaviors and habits that lead to wooden spoons, right? So I think in terms of Waratahs, they're likely to be in the mix for there or thereabouts, chasing for playoff spot. but they'll need to improve massively in terms of their consistency and basically need to find a way to beat the top teams in the competition. They could finish top 6, but a top 4 finish seems highly unlikely.
Mm.
So just outside the top 6 is where I'll put them.
Okay. Yeah. And the Brumbies, to their credit, when you think about so we talk about how lopsided it's been and all the rest of it, the Brumbies at least have been the one team who have been competitive from their side. So
Yep,
I think that
indeed.
they'll be okay.
Yep.
Another sort of interesting side fact, the Wallabies got the Lions, British and Irish Lions tour coming through the end of the year, so sort of mid-year after Super Rugby. So those players, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You want to play well in Super Rugby to play that Lions tour. You only get one tour every 12 years, so if you miss now, you might never get another chance again. So just a bit of extra sort of side motivation there for some of these Australian players.
For sure. I think the Brumbies will be. Look, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. They're going to be top 4.
Ooh, that could be a go. I'll have to have a close look. They've been the best team for a while, so that wouldn't surprise me. If you had to sort of pick a team, that's probably the team in Australia that's going to make the most noise. But I don't know, I've got a soft spot for the Waratahs. They got all the Rebels' best players. So, and then they've got Swati. So I've got high hopes for them. But yeah, the Brumbies.
Yeah,
they're probably the team. So
I think the Brumbies will make top 4. I think the Reds are the dark horse in terms of the Aussie contenders. The Reds are the dark horse for the title. They've got the potential, and they're a very dangerous team. They've got James O'Connor and Jock Campbell.
Yeah.
All they need to do is take care of the injuries and be a bit more consistent with their W's. And they'll have a good lead up to the top 4. I'm not sure if they will make the top 4, but they're a dark horse, I think. Western Force, they're definitely likely to be a mid-table team, but at best, I think, in 2025, mid-table at best. So, unfortunately, for me, they don't have the firepower. I mean, they've got Tom Robertson, they've got Jeremy Thrush, what a name, Lachlan McCaffrey.
Okay.
But these aren't, for me, these aren't powerful enough players to lead them all the way to any kind of top 4 contention.
Yep, I agree with that. Just looking at their squad, they could be. I will pick them for wooden spoon.
Yeah. So they'll be the wooden spoon of the Aussie conference, that's for sure.
Yep.
I think even the 2 Pacific teams will do better than them.
That'll be good because I don't want Moana Pasifika to win it. So it could be, them, yeah. But good thoughts there. Also, just on those predictions, we might as well get into some. So I know it's really early; we haven't even seen really anything. But I'll get a prediction for the competition winner. Who do you think's going to take it out?
Oh, I think Blues will go back to back. And that's not just from a place of bias, which I am coming from. Just because I think the Blues are in a place where they know it's too few and far in between when it comes to championships. And I think the franchise on a whole wants to see consistency in terms of championship wins. And now that the Crusaders are down, who are absolutely our bogey team when it comes to the business end of the season, it's a good chance for the Blues to get some championship W's on the board.
Yeah, I mean, try not to make it too biased, but I like that. I'm going to go for the Blues as well, like I have done every year. But defending champs, as you say, preseason champs, as Roger will say, we've done well in the preseason. Akira, I still think that's a big loss. Now, he's done a lot of carries. He was quite an aggressive dude, and you think about how the Blues played last year. It was really, we're going to smash you up front with Akira was a crucial part of that. Hoskins was a crucial part of that. Tuipulotu and that. So I think they might. Oh, I don't see a reason why they would change the game plan. But just finding someone to do that enforcer at 6 could be a challenge for them. And saying that, there's some depth in the loosies, which we touched on a little bit. So Papali'i, Satutu, seniors there, Choate, Sofua. I mean, they should be able to cover that and have a bit of depth there as well. We talked about some of those guys, Generation Next, that will have to step up. So that fullback, Cole Forbes, you mentioned. Zahn Sullivan's another guy who's been there for a couple of years now. And a few other guys. What was that guy I was thinking of? I can't remember. Corey Evans in the midfield as well as another guy who's been in the squad for a couple of years. So it's up to those guys to start to shine. And I am with you. I will take the Blues to go back to back without seeing any rugby or basically anything.
Yeah.
So just on that, for our listeners, we will reserve the right to change once we see how things unfold. But also, this is something that you are really good at. You've been on the money every single preseason prediction, but a standout player of the tournament. So I know you picked Hoskins Tutu last year. You picked Cam Roigard last year, who was probably the standout player until he done his injury. I know you picked Mark Talier out of nowhere when he won Blues Player of the Year. So you've got a knack for this part, and I've been poor. I have been poor every single time. But have you got a standout player? Or if you want me to go first while you think. Oh, okay, you go.
I do, actually, now that I think of it. Caleb Clark.
Ooh, I hope so.
Caleb Clark's my pick for standout player. Maybe even player of the competition, not sure. But yeah, Caleb Clark, and obviously Mark Talier will be up there. He's just consistently dominant.
And you think if they win those forward battles, those backs can potentially start to carve up. So I quite like that pick. And just on it, they've actually got I just saw a recent article. They've got sort of like a Dally M Player of the Year, an official award. So the captains and the coaches each week will get a vote of who they thought was the standout player, and then they're going to tally up all the numbers and come up with an official Player of the Year type thing. So that's something good, just to reward the players. For me, I like the Blues to win. So my player of the tournament is going to come out of the Blues. I'm going to go for Dalton Papali'i.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, so he was earmarked as the next All Black 7 for a long time, and he sort of fell off a bit last year. But, with Sam Cane moving on, the jersey's up for grabs. I think Peter Lackai's probably moved in front of him at this stage. So there are some decent 7s around. He's 27. These are his prime years. He should be carving up. Akira's not there, so he has to step up on that loose forward trio. Dalton Papali'i as my pick, which means, given my history of picking players, he's got no chance of winning Player of the Year. But I thought if the Blues win, someone from their team is going to have a blinder. So, yeah, Dalton Papali'i for me. We'll look at sort of an unknown guy. We've talked about some of those Highlanders guys, players that we haven't heard of. But anyone that you think, a lot of players moving on to greener pastures. So there's an opportunity for, I guess, someone to sort of come from nowhere and become a bit of a household name or bolt into the All Blacks. Anyone that you see sort of a lesser known guy that you like to sort of stand up the season and might be, you think, oh, shucks, where did this guy come from?
I don't know about lesser known, but a guy that I'd like to stand up this season is Levi Moore. He's one that I want to have a stellar Super Rugby season because I'd like to see him in the black jersey.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on a very similar page because Geordie Barrett, he's on sabbatical. I forget who he's playing for. Some European team.
Yeah, he's playing for Leinster.
Leinster, that's right, yeah. So there's an opportunity for someone to potentially bolt into the 12 jersey. Moore's quite a good pick. I actually went for someone a bit different. I've gone for Riley Higgins at the Hurricanes. So he's similar to Moore. He's a bit of an unknown. He was an outstanding in the NPC last year when Wellington won. And he's sort of that big body type of guy, similar to Moore. We like those type of guys at 12. So, yeah, just sort of thinking similar mindset. I think there's a midfield opening, and who might get it? I've opted for Riley Higgins. But, yeah, it looks like we're thinking similar thoughts there. So, interesting to see. Hopefully some of those Highlanders guys that I just bagged might step up and then prove me wrong. But, Nice thoughts there, brother. We're just about to wrap up, but we do have, I will say, our TAB account. So I'll have to actually check how much we got in there. But just for our listeners, those who don't know, we've got a TAB account for the podcast, and sort of every podcast we'll do a multi $10 bet, just based around a couple of predictions that we've got. So I'm not sure if you got one ready, Joey. If not, I'll go first and I'll give you a bit of time to think. But right, I'll go. So for my one leg of the multi, we know the Six Nations kicked off last week, and just looking at this weekend's games, Italy, they've only won 12.8% of their games since their induction in 2000 in that Six Nations, but they do have Wales this weekend. Yeah, who for whatever reason, man, they've just been poor. So I think Italy can give them a beating. I'll go Italy 13 plus, which is something I never thought I'd say in the Six Nations.
Shit.
Yep.
13 plus. I mean, they have shown signs of improvement, but 13 plus.
Yeah, got to be bold in these early rounds and get us some higher odds and some more money. But just Wales, I don't know what's happened to them.
I like it.
I don't watch enough of that Northern Hemisphere rugby, but they've just been poor. And I think Italy, this is going to be their best chance to not win the wooden spoon and beat someone.
Well, I think Wales will get the wooden spoon again, unfortunately. And I think Italy will land at 5th. I think 4th will be Scotland. 3rd will be England. 2nd will be Ireland. And France will take it out.
Ooh. Nice.
I mean, France are the favourites, and rightly so. They're on form, but also Ireland are doing well, and they've just come off a win against England. So, but France have Antoine Dupont, and he's a game changer. He's a deal breaker. That guy's just unreal. In those clutch moments, he's a clutch player.
Yep. And good to see him and Intermac together again, because that 9-10 combo they got, that's probably the best 9-10 combo in the world, I would say, off the top of my head. Someone might have issues with that, but I don't know. Yeah, that's the best I can think of. And that's a crucial axis in what they're doing there. So now that you say it, I actually agree with that. Nice. Yeah, well, we should get good odds on that. So I'll put a cheeky 10 on that. Right, brother, we're just about that's us. Get some final thoughts from you, brother, just on whatever you want.
Yeah, look, I think from an international level, it's looking good over there with the Six Nations. It's always interesting to see how well the favourites do, or how much better the wooden spooners do. I don't like seeing Wales at the bottom there because, like us, rugby is their national sport. So I'd like to see Wales do better than they have. I don't know what changes they need, but they need to make some changes. Ireland, good to see them doing well still. With a few Kiwis there playing well for the team. I guess from a Super Rugby perspective, it's starting to build nicely in terms of excitement. A lot more new names this season, I feel. So we're going to have to learn a few more.
Mm.
But there are some old heads who are still exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing players like Mark Telea, Caleb Clark, and the likes do really well and score some exciting tries. I'd like to see how Rico Ioane plays this season.
Oh, yes.
He's been around a long time, but he's still quite a young player. So he's got a few more years ahead of him, and hopefully he doesn't lose too much speed as he gets older. I do want to see some of those Aussie teams do well this Super Rugby season, like the Reds and the Waratahs. I think, even though they're considered long shots for taking out the title, I think they're in with a small chance, along with the Brumbies. Not so much the Western Force, but, Brumbies, I feel, will be in the top four with the Blues and the Hurricanes and the Chiefs. That's my top four. The Blues will win it. I don't know if the Blues will face the Chiefs in the semis or the finals, but it'll be one of those two. And then it'll be between the Hurricanes and the Brumbies, if they are the other semi-final. And then it'll be the Blues that beats either the Hurricanes or the Brumbies in the final, or the Chiefs, depending on who the semi-final is.
Yeah, nice. We might have to do another pod next week or something. I know they've changed some of the finals formats and all the rest of it, so I'll have to do a bit more deep diving into that. But those are good thoughts there. I just wanted to say, yeah, it's good to be back and looking forward to hopefully another outstanding year of rugby this season. So it's always an interesting time, as we all know. The money is in the Northern Hemisphere and it's in Japan, so there's this never-ending departure of players every year out of Super Rugby. That does give an opportunity for some of these newcomers to set the competition alight, so if they're good enough. So I've lamented the quality of Super Rugby since South Africa left, but the Aussie teams, to their credit, they look a bit more competitive. They were better last year. Their national team was better. So I'm quietly optimistic for a good tournament that will, get the fans falling in love with rugby again, because if you look at some of the crowd attendance in some of the rugby in New Zealand, it's been poor. The All Blacks haven't been able to sell out. I've been to some Blues games where it's been a bit of a ghost town. I've also been fortunate enough to go to some Warriors games, and you can see the difference. You see a lot of sort of former rugby union fans who sort of stopped watching it at a lot of those Warriors fans as well, at those Warriors games as well. So it's really up to rugby to do a bit better and try and get those fans back, because this is still a rugby country, even though it's not feels like it's not as good as it used to be. So hopefully they can turn a lot of that stuff around. Yeah, Joey, mate, thanks for jumping on. Also,
all good. Thanks for having me again.
No worries. Just for our listeners, Counter Ruck's available through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, many more. So keep listening and keep subscribing. Thanks, Cams, as well, who's doing our editing. We'll be back again shortly. Thanks, everyone. Nice. Good thoughts there, brother.